This Labour government under Rachel Reeves is stumbling around like a ship without a rudder. And you, the British people, are the ones left seasick, aren't you? They promise change, a fresh start, a break from the chaos of the past. But what have we got? Chancellor who's tossing out half-baked ideas like confetti with no clear plan to steer the economy out of the mess they're making worse. This is the new property tax that's there floating, and it's left me, frankly, a little bit horrified. I'm Alex Armstrong, and this is GB News Originals. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video to get all of the latest. Well, stamp duty, which squeezes homeowners and clogs up the housing market, might be scrapped, not for relief, mind you, but to be replaced with a new tax on homes worth over £500,000. That sounds pretty decent to many people, doesn't it? Except it's another layer of bureaucracy, another hit on aspiration. Only 20% of property sales would be effective, they say. But who's really footing the bill? The middle classes, the people who have worked hard to own something of value, only to be punished when they try to move house. And don't get me started on the council tax overhaul they're hinting at. Local authorities are broke for sure. But swapping one tax for another isn't reform, it's reshuffling the deck to deal the same bad hand. Let's talk about this £500,000, by the way, this £500,000 threshold. Well, that would be almost 50% of properties in London. A two-bedroom flat in some zones in London is worth £500,000. What will that do to first-time buyers in our capital city? Well, here's what business journalist and legend Ian King had to say.
I think this is just a bit of pre-budget kite flying by the Treasury. We often get this sort of thing ahead of a budget. I mean, the bigger picture to this is that you've got two bills, two taxes which are very, very unpopular, council tax and stamp duty, which both, I would say, chancellors of every persuasion have really wanted to reform for many, many years. Stamp duty in particular, it's a lousy tax. It's a tax on labour mobility. It means that a lot of capital is tied up in the housing market inefficiently. For example, you've got a lot of elderly people living in houses that are probably far too big for them, but they're reluctant to downsize because of the stamp duty that they would incur in doing so. So it's a really, really inefficient and unpopular tax. Council tax, likewise, again, rather regressive. The case that is being quoted widely this morning is that if you're in a Band D property in Blackpool, you're paying council tax of £2,277 a year. If you're in a Band D property in Westminster, which is obviously considerably more valuable, you're only paying £973 a year in council tax. So you can see why there would be an impetus to reform both council tax and stamp duty. Now, what's being proposed, as is reported in the newspapers, is potentially that you replace stamp duty in particular and council tax with a land tax instead. Now, this has a lot of attractions for any chancellor, not least the fact that land taxes are very, very difficult to avoid. You know, you can't package up land and put it in a suitcase and take it off to the airport. It's not very easy to avoid. Now, the idea is essentially, this is according to an economist called Tim Lunig. He's a former government advisor. He helped devise the furlough scheme during the pandemic, for example. Now, he's written a paper for a think tank called Onward, in which he suggests that basically you reform both. You replace council tax and stamp duty with a property tax. That would be levied not on tenants, but on landlords and property owners. And essentially, what he's suggesting that if you live in a property that's worth less than £500,000 a year, you would pay a local levy levied by the local council. That would be, instead of council tax, a minimum of £800 a year. So essentially that would be probably revenue neutral. Now, where that gets a bit more complicated is in property values of £500,000 and over. Now, what he's suggested is that for properties of between £500,000 and £1 million, you would pay an annual land tax of 0.54% of the property's value. Anything over £1 million, you go to 0.81%. On a £2 million property, for example, that would mean an annual land tax of around £8,100. So you can see very quickly that there would be big losers from this, as well as there's potentially some winners.
Hello, I'm Bev Turner. Now, it can feel like the money in our bank accounts at the moment does not keep up with the cost of living, and maybe there's a solution. I'm here today with the CEO of TallyMoney, Cameron Parry. Cameron, what is TallyMoney?
Well, Bev, with TallyMoney, you get a current account and a debit card, but instead of pounds, you use milligrams of gold as your everyday money.
So why gold?
Gold traditionally is a great store of value. It has, on average, gone up at over 11% per annum for the last 25 years against the pound. It's tripled in value in the last decade. And in the last 2 years alone, it's increased by 50% against the pound. Banks' savings products just can't compete with that level of growth.
But this isn't just about gold. This is about a currency that you guys have created at TallyMoney. Explain it to me as though I'm an idiot.
So, look, people need to be able to hold their earnings and build their savings in a money that retains its value and remains in their legal control and remains theirs to access, away from government control.
Great. You had me at not exposed to government control.
You should feel safe and happy with your money. You should have peace of mind the more money you see in your bank balance, and that's the type of thing we're trying to deliver and give people choice in the type of money they get to use every day.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you.
Yeah, Ian, help me make sense of this. So if I owned a flat that's worth £500,000 in London, which could just be a 2-bedroom flat, would I be subject to a tax like this?
No, anything under £500,000, they're recommending, Tim Looning is recommending a minimum of £800, and whether it went substantially over that would be down to the local council. Now, obviously, we know that Angela Rayner is tampering with local government financing anyway. She's looking at a redistribution of towards the north of England from the south and London in particular. So it feels that whatever happens, London council taxpayers potentially could be paying a lot more in future anyway, or seeing cuts to their services.
This isn't leadership. It's indecision, dressed up as policy. Reeves and her Treasury team are reportedly exploring and analysing, like they're in a university seminar, not running the 5th largest economy in the world. The commissioning reports, consulting think tanks, and just kicking the can down the road with promises of phasing and no definite decisions. Meanwhile, our housing market has ground to a halt. Families can't move for better jobs and local councils are left begging for scraps. Labour's manifesto swore they wouldn't raise taxes on working people, but then they hiked national insurance and employers. Guess who ends up paying for that? Well, of course, it's you, the workers, through lower wages and fewer jobs. It's sleight of hands, isn't it? Not governance. And now, with this property tax, they're eyeing up your home next. Your biggest asset. Another cash cow to milk. Where's the vision? Where's the bold plan to unleash growth as they promised? Where is the cutting of red tape? Why can't we just let people keep more of the money they earn and get government out of your assets? But it's just going to be more tinkering and more taxes and more drift, isn't it? And don't think this is just about houses. Look at the bigger picture. They are paralysed on every single front. Reeves talks a big game about fiscal rules being non-negotiable. But what does that actually mean when she's backtracking on benefits cuts because her own backbench MPs have kicked up a bit of a fuss? Universal credit, personal independence, payments, PIPs, reforms that could have saved billions are now watered down because Labour's too spineless to stand up to their own backbenchers. They're terrified of making tough calls. So they just close ears and hope something sticks with the press, something you might read and like, and none of it ever does it seemingly? This isn't really like a government, it's a focus group with a budget. A triple lock stays, they say. But at what cost? They're raiding pensioners' winter fuel payments to plug holes elsewhere, leaving the elderly to choose between heating and eating. It's just rudderless and it's heartless government, isn't it? Then there's the economic backdrop, which makes this dithering even more unforgivable. Borrowing costs are through the roof. 30-year gilt yields hit 5.57% last week, a level we haven't seen in nearly 3 decades. And don't forget what they did to Liz Truss over her gilt yield increases. Well, investors are just running scared, and who can blame them? The UK's fiscal position is shaky at best, and Reeves' endless explorations aren't inspiring confidence. The Bank of England is grappling with inflation projected to hit 4% next month, and interest rate cuts are being scaled back because wage growth just isn't budging. Every move this government makes, or doesn't make, sends markets into a tailspin. They are spending £100 billion a year just servicing debt, money that could be fixing the NHS or bolstering defence. Instead, it's going to hedge funds in New York, while Labour faffs about with tax proposals that don't even have a start date, haven't even been clearly thought through, and frankly, proposals that nobody in this country is going to like. This isn't just a lack of direction, is it? It's a betrayal of Brits who voted for stability and competence. We deserve better than this aimless tax-grabbing mess of a government. Well, I want to thank you again for watching. I've been Alex Armstrong. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the GB News YouTube channel and download the GB News app from the App Store to keep up to date with all the latest on this developing story.